So I do believe that energetically we kind of have the ability as human beings to sense energy and imprints that places can have.
Well, science already tells us, doesn't it, that everything has a frequency, from sound waves to electromagnetic fields. And I guess what happens, or the way I sort of tend to think of it, is that the emotions get sort of sucked up like a sponge absorbs the water into different areas or places or things.
Have you ever noticed how certain places or people feel heavy or light? Could this be connected to the frequencies of collective or individual thoughts? And let's explore how might hypnosis help to shift these dynamics. I've got Teresa with me today, so I hope you enjoy this one.
Hi, Meredith. It's really such an interesting concept, you know. We tend to think of energy in terms of physics and spirituality. But what if our thoughts, both personal and shared, actually create a kind of vibrational imprint in a space?
I do believe this is true. I can remember years ago, I had a very spooky experience, and I was standing at the top of this mountain overlooking a very nice view, and I had this horrible feeling come over me. And a couple of years later, I actually was talking to a psychic, strangely. Not that that was something I did very often, but we started to look at my sensitivities, and she gave me something to hold, and it was a crystal. And it felt really gross, just like that moment I was standing on top of the hill. And I can remember my whole vibrational kind of self started to feel sick to my core, and I actually started to tear up. It was just quite overwhelming. And I said, whatever that is, I don't want to hold it. And she said, look, can I just ask you to hold one more thing? And she gave me this other quartz crystal, and she said, how does that feel? And I said, yeah, nothing. It's not like the other one. I couldn't handle holding the other one. She said, well, you are what you call a feeler. You sense things, sense energy around you. And suddenly my life made some sense about things that I had experienced that I couldn't put my finger on, and it didn't feel like it was mine. But I would go into a place where I come home and I just feel I took something with me, or I had this experience all of a sudden where energetically I just felt instantly different just by being in a certain place. Anyway, I asked her, I said, well, what do you use that other yucky crystal for? And she says, well, when people have been raped, I have that to absorb all the horrible energy. Suddenly, I thought, wow, okay, potentially maybe I was standing in a place where someone had been attacked and raped, and that felt the same. It was quite strong. So I do believe that energetically we kind of have the ability as human beings to sense energy and imprints that places can have.
Well, science already tells us, doesn't it, that everything has a frequency, from sound waves to electromagnetic fields. And I guess what happens, or the way I sort of tend to think of it, is that the emotions get sort of sucked up like a sponge absorbs the water into different areas or places or things.
Well, let's look at the idea of a forest. Now, some forests feel really lovely, but others don't. Some other forest spaces and places can feel quite icky, like that someone can feel a little bit scared or tense. And I do believe, the earth and the spaces and places, they serve a purpose for cleaning and healing and letting go. And then other spots are quite dark and dense, and they kind of hang on to stuff. I get a sense of that sometimes, where there's like almost like staleness in a space. The energy's not moving. Whereas you go to another place and it just feels dynamic and fresh and easy. Have you ever had that experience?
I have, yes. And I also think it depends on what you're feeling at the time, sometimes, to how different places actually feel. So if you're really feeling happy and joyous and, your energy vibration is really quite high, then walking into somewhere like a cemetery or something like that, or um, a dark forest, could have a completely different effect and feeling on how you actually pick up that vibration around you and things have gone round. The same as
Mm,
if you're lower energy, you sort of perhaps a bit down or dark. If you go somewhere where everyone's really happy, you might not be able to tolerate that because it's just too much for your vibration at that moment.
mm. Yeah, and I think we're attracted often to music and places and spaces that feel the same way we might be feeling. So if we're in a bit of a dark, moody space, we might be listening to dark, moody music
Mm.
and want to go into an atmosphere that is kind of holding that. And if we're feeling light and breezy and happy, the last thing we want to do is put the heavy music on. So when we're thinking about that idea of things are always changing, and the thoughts we're thinking can definitely affect the field and how we are experiencing the spaces around us, for sure.
Exactly. It's like this morning, I didn't want to get up to go to work, and it was like, oh, I'd just much rather, because it was quite cold and a dark morning. It's like I'd much rather lie here for a little bit longer underneath my duvet as the 5:30 alarm sort of went off. And I thought, no, come on, Teresa. And I put on some music that I enjoy and uplifting music, and I was fine. And that changed my mood almost automatically. And I
Mm.
moved forward from that day. Yeah. Now, I think I remember you telling me about the work of Dr. Emoto many years ago about the water crystal experiments. Did you want to explain that
Yes,
to people?
I even have a book down here,
I
actually.
know you do.
I
That's
didn't
why I said
realize I would have it right here.
I'll let you talk about it, because you always have that book sitting there.
It is good. Well, he did some water experiments where he would get a little vial of water from the same water source, and he'd wrap words around the water, and then he would leave it for a period of time. And after that period of time was taken, he would take a drop from the vial and he would put it on a little wee, what do you call it?
Microscope?
Glass sort of thing,
Right.
and then he would freeze it. And he would look at it under a what do they
Microscope.
call it?
I jumped.
Microscope.
I jumped the gun.
Yeah, the microscope. And what would happen is, even though it was from the same water source, the quality of the words that were wrapped around would actually interfere with the quality of the beautiful, what do they call them? I forgot.
Snowflakes or crystals. Yeah.
It's like a crystal that forms, yeah.
Yeah.
So when it is frozen, each single drop forms its own crystal. And when the words are not so nice words, like hate, the crystal doesn't form very well. And
Mm.
when it's love, it forms really well. It's a very interesting thing. I see if I can find some pictures, and I'll put it up on screen later
He did it with
so people
music.
can see it. Hmm?
He did it with music as well, didn't he? He did it
Yes,
with classical music and rock music, and was amazed with the difference of the
yeah.
crystals patterns that actually were formed.
So we've got you full in 3 different languages. That's you full, and they didn't form crystals. Amazing, eh?
Mm.
And then you've got angel and Satan. So very, very interesting stuff. So if anyone is interested in these, the work that he did, you can grab his book. He's passed away now, but he did some really amazing stuff. And yes, with the water and playing music to it, heavy metal versus Swan Lake and things like that would definitely be looking quite different. Just seeing if I can quickly find those pictures. And also doing prayers over different water sources. So before and after a Buddhist prayer, groundwater, and sort of after a prayer, was that they look quite different. So that's the prayer there. So that's the same water source. And then after the prayer was taken to the water, that's what it looked like.
Even the colours changed there in that image as well, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Not just the form.
So if people want to have a look at it, it's really fascinating. But, we're 80% or so water. And what we kind of need to be aware of is the thoughts we're thinking can affect our vibrational self. And if we want to feel different, we've got to shift the frequency of thinking. So if we're hating on ourselves, that's not going to be good for our health. And if we're really supporting ourselves, that's going to support our health.
So Meredith, how can hypnosis actually help shift these energies?
Well, I think we key into the art of suggestion. So the right suggestion in a positive vibrational tone is going to assist that client to shift into a better place. If we think about the power of reframing, so the power of taking an old thought that doesn't serve you into a more empowering thought and reinforcing that through hypnosis, that can be huge. And even inviting the client to imagine experiencing that positive intention, that positive belief, imagining and getting into that emotionally, that can really help to reset the program that they're going to run in the future. So, I think definitely hypnosis is a key strategy that people who are suffering from negative self-talk or limiting beliefs could really gain a lot of help from.
By reframing. I guess we can also do that through guided journeys, hypnosis journeys as well. We can guide them through that, changing those negative beliefs into more positive thoughts.
Absolutely. If we think about imagery, let's say you get someone to imagine a mountain, but someone they knew died on the mountain, or something terrible happened and mountains aren't good things for them, then that may well regress them into a not so nice vibration. So to do positive work, sometimes we need to tune in to the client and go, what is their happy space? What is their calm space? And to be utilizing what makes sense to them. So even if you're innocently thinking, I'm going to guide them down a staircase, well, they might have had a terrible fall down a staircase, or they might have had someone attack them at the bottom of a staircase. So it's not always a nice experience to walk someone down a staircase if that's one of your induction techniques. Same thing with an elevator. Not everyone's going to feel comfortable with an elevator induction. So there is a lot of things that as hypnotherapists I think we need to be aware of when we're working with suggestion and we're working with guiding clients through things, so we're not accidentally regressing them into a not so positive experience.
I think water is one of those very common ones as well, that people often use water, and about stepping into the water as well and washing things away. A lot of people are frightened of water, the ocean or rivers, and haven't had such good experience. And like you were saying, then you sort of take them out of rapport and it's not necessarily going to work. So it's really important to do that unpacking at the beginning and trying to find out a little bit about your client and their background.
Exactly. So doing things like inductions that are more kinesthetic and visual in the space, so a hand drop induction or an eye fixation, counting down, things like that, which are more sort of generic. It can be potentially an easier way to go about supporting that client. Also, getting to know your client first, getting to know their world and what makes sense to them. You may find some clients just aren't very visual, or they can't connect to a happy place at all at that point in time. So it's not making them or forcing them to do it either. but it's allowing them to invite the idea that they could find a quiet, comfortable space in their mind. And if they find that within that session, that's great. But if it doesn't happen in that absolute moment in time, that's okay too. It's the invitation that they can begin to find a quiet, comfortable space that makes sense to them. Often there is a progression with the sessions that you do with people, that the more they come in, the deeper the trust becomes, and the more available they are to trust a process and to let their guard down. So that, energetically, if we think about the vibration of trust, that needs to be in the room. We call it rapport.
Yeah, for sure. Now, I was sort of thinking that I would like to invite those listeners out there to try something today. So before entering space today, I'd like them to take a deep breath and set an intention for lightness, and notice any changes in how they feel. And if they've experienced energy shifts in a different place, let us know and comment or share the story with us. I think that would be really nice to hear from people. And if they want to know more, to contact us either through the messaging below, or to click on the subscribe and like and share button and go to our website.
On the like button, a lot of people do watch our videos, but not everyone remembers to like them. But it actually helps the algorithm, so we can really get further out to reach people who might be interested in this stuff. So it would really help us a lot if you could push that little like button while you're here. That would be really neat. When we're looking at the idea of training to become a hypnotherapist, I do have a new round starting. So, if you want to check out the school, hypnotherapy school, it's on nzach.ac.nz. So if you want to have a discovery call or email me a couple of questions, I'm always happy and available to connect with you. It is an online hypnotherapy diploma, and it's accessible for those that might have busy weekends, that don't have a lot of time up their sleeve. So we meet, it's 48 live sessions over a year, and it's on Thursday evenings from 7 till 9:30. And they are live sessions. There's also a huge amount of information on the online portal that you can read through, and assignments and things that you need to be finishing, obviously, as part of the diploma. But I'm here to support people to really be successful in this journey of learning. So I'm very accessible too as a trainer. And as the head of the school, I'm passionate about, really uffing people into a career that they feel excited about, and making sure that they get to the other end. It really saddens me sometimes to hear people have done all of the work almost to get the diploma, and they haven't finished their assignments, and they never make it. And, I've been a trainer for a school that happened a lot, and I'm determined that that's not going to happen on my watch, when I can support people. So some people are, having problems with reading and writing. I'm okay with that. If you want to submit something and talk it into a recording device, I'm happy with that. If you don't want to write 1,000 words, you can speak 1,000 words, and we can assess you in the way that makes sense to you. Because a lot of hypnotherapists are actually dyslexic, or a lot of hypnotherapists, their strength is not in the writing skills, it's in the people skills and the people connection. And I get that, and I want to support people in their own learning style. But for those that love novels, we have that option too. You can submit your stuff in writing. But yeah, if you are keen on training, check out the website. I hope that's been informative for you. I will put a link to the book about the hidden messages in water. So if people are interested, you can check that out. It is an interesting read, and I often use that with clients to explain how important our thoughts are, and how our energy, our body, is actually listening to those thoughts.
Yeah, for sure. So thank you, Meredith, for inviting me along today. It's been a pleasure as usual, and I look forward to next week's series.
Absolutely. Thank you again, Teresa, for being my guest, and thank you for all of those people that have tuned in today. Bye for now.
Bye.